All right, so you're just starting on Etsy and you have 0 sales, or you've been on Etsy and you're just really struggling to gain that initial traction and not seeing sales regularly yet. That's totally fine, because in this video, we're gonna be going over the 3 things that you can do right now to absolutely fix this problem. But before we get into that, we need to set some perspective, because in the beginning, you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes because you're not comparing what you're doing to anyone else, because you don't actually have any perspective of what's normal and what's not normal, right? We tend to sometimes prematurely freak out or sit back and just ride the wave when we really should be working on something else, but we just ultimately don't know because we've never done this before, and that's okay. So let's talk about some perspective checkpoints, all right? So perspective checkpoint number 1, the snowball effect is real. In e-commerce, or really most businesses, there's something called a snowball effect. In the beginning, it's slow and painful, and this is normal. Like if you're not seeing 1 million sales right when you open your shop, this is normal, right? You don't have any reviews, you don't have any social proof, you don't have any organic indexing yet. And so what happens is you start getting sales slowly, and then those sales turn into more sales, and then those sales turn into positive reviews, which then turns into more clicks and more purchases, but it's a slow and painful in the beginning, and this is a part of the process. Checkpoint number 2, if you're only 2 weeks in, chill out. No sales in your first 2 weeks is normal. I don't even think I got my first sale in the first 2 weeks. This is a normal thing. It could very well be that you just need more time, more organic indexing for that snowball effect to begin happening. Number 3 is that you have to understand that the Etsy algorithm, just like Instagram or YouTube, when you post a video, the second you publish, you're getting judged. This judgment period, according to Etsy, can take up to 180 days, allegedly, for them to fully judge that listing. However, in checkpoint number 4, that first 30 days is really important, and it starts to reveal a gold mine of data. In that first 30 days, you should start already be collecting some very valuable data. So you should start seeing views and clicks and hopefully some purchases, ideally within the first 30 days. These first 30 days will start to kickstart what you will then eventually be able to categorize as either the listing is going to be a dead listing where it maybe only makes 1 to 4 sales per month, a mediocre listing where maybe it makes 1 to 4 sales a week, or an absolute winning listing where maybe it makes 1 to a couple sales or more than a couple sales every single day. Checkpoint number 5 is favorites are not sales. So a lot of times people get really caught up in vanity metrics, things like favorites and likes and all that stuff, but like that doesn't really matter. The only thing that really matters is, are you actually getting add to carts and purchases? Is that actually translating into purchases? And that's the data that you want to follow as your North Star for future growth and future products. Checkpoint number 6 is we have to remember to look at big picture data, not just day-to-day stats. Growth is not always linear. So I think a lot of times we go to market and we think that it's just going to go like this. And it's not this. And that is why it's important to look at your data month over month over large batches of time, ideally, eventually, quarter over quarter, and then year over year. And that's why when you quit a business in under a year, it was kind of pointless to start it in the first place, because it takes at least a year for you to really understand your shop, ideally 2 years. So checkpoint number 7 is Etsy is a search engine and there's competition. So I want you to think every single time you post a listing that you're entering an arena for the first time. You're entering an arena where you're competing for something. You're competing for sales on Etsy, right? And so every moment of truth that you have in your listing, whether it's the title, the tag, the description, the product, drop-down menu, every moment of truth needs to be competing to win in that arena. And I think this is really important, because I think a lot of times people just, come to market with an idea that they really like and they don't think about the competition. But this is the only thing that matters, is really understanding your competition and trying to strategize to beat your competition. So every time you hit publish, just remember me saying that you're entering an arena. And if you're not doing all the things to compete, right, that can contribute to you not making a lot of sales. Checkpoint number 8 is the beginning is supposed to be hard. Same thing with that snowball effect strategy, right? The hardest part is gaining the skills, going to market for the first time, being embarrassed in front of all your friends, right? Being nervous to sell something that you made in exchange for money. Like all of that is a part of the beginning. It's part of the journey. You can't overcome it. You can only go through it. Checkpoint number 9 is keywords is not the solution to your low traffic problem. Keywords are important, yes, but if you've been on the market for a couple of months now and you're not seeing the sales that you want, want, it's likely it's not a keyword problem. It's going to be one of the things that we're talking about in this video coming up. And number 10 is kind of a repeat of the arena analogy, right? The goal with this is to learn how to build such a sexy listing that when you show up in comparison to your competition, you earn that click in comparison to everyone else. All right, now that we've set some expectations, hopefully gained some perspective, I also just want to mention here that if I'm missing something, or if you're unclear about something, or you just need a point of reference, comment those things down below. Because like I said, sometimes we think they're not normal when we first start, but they're actually normal. So one of the most common things is I got 100 views, but I only got 2 clicks. Is that normal? Yes, that's completely normal. So a lot of times you just need a point of reference. So if you need a point of reference for something, make sure you comment those down below, because I actually answer most of my comments when I can personally. All right, so now that we've gained some perspective, let's go into the 3 things that you can do right now to start fixing your zero traffic problem, or your zero sales problem, or your low sales problem. All right, so the standard newbie mistake, and this is not just limited to Etsy, but in all types of businesses, I've made this mistake myself, is that we don't understand the balance. So there is a balance in business, right? You have this thing that you're trying to sell, and then you have what the market actually wants. And we have to find this balance between what we want to make and sell versus what the market actually wants. And if this is too much of whatever we want and not really what the market wants, then our scale becomes off balance. So if we're starting a business for the first time, you could literally be curing cancer, but if no one actually wants to cure cancer, then the balance is going to be off. So it doesn't matter. And so we have to validate our decisions by actually validating the demand for what we think we want to sell in our mind versus what the market actually says they want to buy. And we need to have some perspective on that before we start making all these decisions, spend thousands of hours making things that may or may not sell. And so we're going to do this in a 3-layer process. All right. So we have a green light that we're going to invest in this business. All right. So we first want to validate this actually on Etsy, because Etsy is holding the pool of buyers that are going to be buying from us. So we need to know that people on Etsy actually want the thing that we have to sell, that we want to sell, or the niche in general that we're going to sell in. So we're going to start broad and then work our way down the layers. So I'm going to type in Western graphic tee. So Western graphic tee resembles a niche. So it's a broader word, right? We're not saying boots, Western graphic tee. We're not saying UFO, Western graphic tee. We're not saying desert. We're keeping it broad, right? And first we want to see, is there actual demand on the niche level? So for someone that was doing print on demand, if you were building a total Western store, right? And your Western store had graphic tees in it, or maybe you already have a print on demand store and you want to make a collection, a Western collection, right? And the product that you have is a graphic shirt, then we need to validate that there's actually demand for this. So that is the outer layer, is validating it on the niche level, right? So when we search this word, we're inside of Profitrillka, which is the only automated profit tracking solution for sellers, but also it has 2 product research features, this product finder and the Etsy radar, which is basically the Chrome extension version that you can search in Etsy. And so what we're looking for is true demand on the highest level, which is the niche, right? So off the bat, we can see here that we have a bunch of listings that are showing real demand. So this is showing true demand of this product, right? 20 people have in their carts right now. Estimated revenue is great to look at, but it is exactly what it sounds like. It is estimated, right? All the tools that show revenue, they're building an algorithm to estimate revenue, and something could have had really great revenue in the past, but if there's no demand right now, 20 people don't have this in their cart right now, or nothing has sold in the last 24 hours, then that could indicate that it's not actually hot right now. And if you're making this listing right now, you want it to sell right now. So we have some clear signs of momentum here, because you can see 2 sold in the last 24 hours, 3 sold in the last 24 hours, right? So now on this outer layer, we just validated that on the niche level, people actually are interested in this Western niche, specifically on a tee. And remember, the Western graphic tee is the outer layer because there's sub layers that can exist underneath of it. So what other things could go underneath of this, right? You have under a Western graphic tee, you could have a cowboy themed shirt. That could be the core keyword. It could be a desert motif shirt. It could be a UFO desert mode shirt, right? It could be a rustic font shirt, right? There's all these things that could live under that that bigger niche category. So action item number 2 after validating the demand on the niche is actually validating demand on the specific product that you have the capacity and the willingness to actually create, right? Because just because there's something demand for a product doesn't mean that you can actually make it if you don't have the resources or the tools or the production partner or the raw materials, or if you're doing print on demand, right? Like if it's not offered in your print on demand provider, right? So we need to validate on a deeper level that the product that we actually want to sell, the specific product under that niche, also has demand. So if we look here, right, say I wanted to do this UFO cowboy shirt that sold in 2 in the last 24 hours, right? Because just a broad, cowboy boots shirt, it's a very different customer search query than a UFO shirt. Someone that wants a UFO on their shirt in Western is a different customer avatar than someone searching for just a raw boot style shirt, cutesy shirt, right? So it's 2 different customers attracting 2 different customer avatars. So is this one, right? This is a vintage shirt. So this is not a print on demand shirt. It looks like it's an actual vintage, like 80s shirt, right? So very different customer avatar. And so we want to validate that the specific product that we have is indicating demand, that if we went to market competing with that exact listing, right, we are competing for the same customer. And as long as we're competing for the same customer and that other listing is proving demand, then that means that we can do it too if we're going to go into that specific product type. So let's say we wanted to go with this UFO category. I'm going to do a new search and type in UFO cowboy shirt, right? And so now we can see all of the top listings that actually are UFO specific, right? So UFO, right? And so now we want to evaluate who is the top dog for this UFO shirt. So we have quite a few, 20 carts, 3 to 20 carts, right? So now that we've validated in this step number 2 that the specific product good indicators of demand, we need to move into action item part 3. Number 3 is building our value proposition of competition. So how are we actually going to compete? And remember when we talked about all of those different moments of truth, right? Every moment of truth matters, right? The main image matters. The mock-up matters, right? The color choices, right, matter, right? Their drop-down menu matters. Their price point matters, right? And I actually saw in another person's video a really, really cool hack is that a really, really good way to validate, especially in the beginning when you don't really know, you're designing and stuff, but like you've never really competed with anything anymore. Like you might make something and think that it looks way better than your competition, but you alone are not actually a great data sample of that. And you're also biased because you made it. So what I saw in this other girl's video is basically like you could go into a UFO Facebook group that has like thousands of members and not try to sell your item, but just post, hey, UFO lovers, I'm trying to make, a shop that is selling UFO shirts. Just out of curiosity, I'm doing some competitor research. Which listing would you be more likely to purchase from? And like have a data sample of people from the Facebook group actually respond. Obviously, you want to look for an active Facebook group, but I don't think you have to do this like indefinitely, but especially in the beginning when you don't know, like you're just learning for the first time and you're competing against listings that have been around for maybe way more months or maybe years before you. This will help you collect data because that feedback will actually legitimately, people will point out what they like and what they don't like and maybe give you a new perspective of how you can improve it to make it more in par with your competition. So I would try to recreate your own version of a design and then find Facebook groups and mom groups, gardening groups, whatever niche or whatever your product is you're selling for, and simply ask people, which one would you be more likely to click on? And they'll point out why they'll click on it, why they don't like it at all those things. And so I thought that was a really, really cool idea. I saw that from another YouTuber, so I'm not even going to take credit on that. I never even thought about that before. They're only doing limited colors, which is really good. So, clear things that you could already just do to compete if you went one-to-one with the value stack of this listing, right? You could do loss leader pricing. You can include a video, right? This is only including one type of shirt, right? You could do the drop-down menu that offers hoodies, and it could offer a hoodie version of this, a shirt version of this, a tank top version of this, or a onesie version of this, right? All in one drop-down menu just to give people more options, which you can check out Simply Listed. that will help you do that with Printify automatically. So they'll push your SKUs to your listings in bulk for you so you don't have to manually do it. So there's a lot of opportunities to compete here. And by the way, loss leader pricing is when you make one variation option way cheaper than the rest. So then they see, $14.99, but then you click on it and it's basically only one variation option is cheaper, or like the least purchase variation option, which earns you the click. And some people don't like it because they don't think it's honest, but in a world of competing, it definitely works. So there's a lot of opportunity to compete with this listing. And ultimately, it really starts here. It comes with constantly coming back and analyzing your competition over and over and over again. It's super, super important that you're doing this in the beginning. At least for your first 500 listings, you want to be so meticulous at looking at what the market says before you make a decision. Guys, I hope you got some value out of this video. Make sure you check out Profitrillka. The link is in the description.